Yeah, remember the name, Jazz Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane, so better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question, giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jazz Takhar podcast.
I was just mentioning off air before we got on air, as we once again have a live audience, which is really cool. For the guys that are watching the video right now, I'm not sure if Yas, the beautiful cinematographer of mine, is actually going to get it into the video, but either way, make sure you hop over to our socials to see some of the behind the scenes stuff. But as I was mentioning off air, I don't actually know a lot about the guests that I have sitting with me today. And what I actually enjoy about that is, as you're taking your dog for your walk right now, or on the treadmill, or driving, or maybe you're watching on the all new Jazz Takhar app, which the only way you're watching this video is if you've downloaded the app in the App Store or the Play Store. You are seeing a very, very handsome guy. And I'm not talking about myself. Sometimes I am, but I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Adrian. Adrian, can you introduce yourself and what you're all about, and then I'm gonna take that and run with it, and I'll probably have 57 questions, and we'll bring some value to people who are listening. So do your thing, like that origin story, that comic book story of yours. Why don't you give us the Reader's Digest version of that?
Yeah, awesome. Well, Adrian Pannozzo is my name, and I want to start off by obviously thanking you for having me here today, but I'll give you the Coles Notes version of my story. I started working as a police officer. I was working in the GTA, Mississauga, Brampton area. At the young age of 23, I was hired with the police department, and a career I always wanted. It was amazing. It's, ever since I was in junior kindergarten.
Parents in like policing?
No.
Well, so just when you were a kid, like when I grow up, I want to be a fireman, police. Like I want to be a policeman. Awesome.
I was the guy, you remember in kindergarten when you sit in the circle?
Yes.
And the guests come in the school and whatnot. I was the guy in the corner looking up at the police officer that was saying, make sure you do this and that. Like, yeah, that was my Superman.
Do you remember, like, even when you're telling this story, are you envisioning that one person that kind of came in?
That guy that came in.
That's awesome.
His name was Officer Norm.
Oh, cool. Shout out to Officer Norm.
Shout out to Officer Norm. I still remember him. So yeah, I chased that dream of mine for obviously, and was accepted at the young age of 23. Got hired on and started my career. And it was probably about a career that I loved. It was probably about 10 years into that career that I was starting to think, okay, I put in my 30 years on the job. Where do I go after I retire? And live the same kind of lifestyle, be it on pension, because I'm not going to have my full salary, right? And I started thinking, okay, what other thing can I do that's going to give me that same lifestyle, even though I'm retired, after I put in my 30 years? And I thought, real estate investing.
How did that come up? You're only 33 at this point.
Yes.
Right? So,
correct.
Like, what is real estate? For me, it was like I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure, like,
so much about that.
But like, where did that come from for you?
Good question. So, my wife and I, our mortgage on our principal residence, again, didn't have a lot of money. But our mortgage was up for renewal on our house, and we go see this mortgage broker. And he looks into our finances and whatnot, and he says, you have a lot of equity in your home. What are you doing with that equity in your home? Back then, I didn't even know what equity was. What's that? Blah, blah, blah. So one conversation leads to another, and he says, well, have you ever thought about potentially buying a rental property? We can get that equity in your home, use that as a down payment, because I didn't have that in the bank, right? Use that as a down payment to start buying a rental property. And then I thought, and then you hear these horror stories about tenants that don't pay this and that. Most of them are all horror. Like it's.
You probably also dealt with some of them too
I've
as a
dealt with them
police.
on-
Like
yeah,
I'm sure
as
you
a
got a
police
couple of phone
officer.
calls here and there from tenants and shit like that. Like where it's like,
Few scenarios.
yeah,
for
I'm sure, right? So that doesn't help you either.
So yeah, we kind of he planted the seed. In
Okay.
fairness, he planted the seed, and then I started marinating on it and whatnot. And long story short, that's how things started. So we pulled, I think, a $200,000 line of credit on our home, everything we had. Again, we didn't have money in the bank, and I used that line of credit to get started.
Okay, so that's the first property, and what was that actual property?
That was a small little bungalow with a finished secondary suite in the basement in York Region where I live, and one tenant up. I think it's a 3-bedroom. I still have it actually. It's a 3-bedroom upstairs, 2-bedroom basement apartment. Back then, I think we paid $305,000.
Not trying to age you or anything, Adrian, but what year are we talking now? Just to give some context to people.
So that would have been that was about 11 years ago.
Okay. So I'm still in the business. So it's I got into the business 17 years ago. So 11 years, East York bungalow. What was the price point? Did you say about I was gonna say 450. Okay, so I'm not too far off. Okay, yeah. You still own that property. Just curious because sometimes because you mentioned this was done with your wife at that time as well. Right. Okay. Was that hard? Like, did she get it right away? Because I know there's a lot of people who are wanting to get into investing into real estate, but not both partners understand or are on the same page sometimes. Well, how was like your setting at home in that sense? Like she get it? She was like, okay, let's do it, Adrian? Or was she like, you're fucking crazy, we're not doing this shit?
I didn't know we could swear.
Oh, you go crazy.
Good.
That's why it's called the Jazz Takhar podcast. Yeah. And then above that, it says established in Rexdale. My viewers and listeners know we go Rexdalian a lot around here. So you policing in Brampton and Mississauga. So we're good. We're not that far off. You know what I mean? So yeah.
No, she was scared shitless.
Okay.
She was scared shitless, and if it was up to her, she wouldn't have done it. But she said, hey, trust you. You're going to manage this. You're going to deal with the tenants.
Got it.
If we lose our fucking money, like
it's on you.
It's all on you, right? So
and you're really, really entrusting the advice that you got from this broker. Or was it now at this time to take you back there? Like, was there more education that you picked up on? Did you talk to some people? Like, was it the barber maybe that gave you some more information
it was really him for the most part, and then I, just Google.
That's pretty ballsy, though, man.
Could. Yeah. I took the leap of faith, and I think being a cop at that time too helped.
Take the leap of faith. I love what you said. I mean, that resonates with me so much because you didn't really have all the ducks in order. You didn't have all the education, but you did exactly that. You took the leap of faith. God knows what it's worth right now, and we'll get into that conversation and how your portfolio looks. But yeah, so continue. So you take this leap of faith.
Take the leap of faith. We pull the line of credit on the house. We use that $200 to buy our first one. Down payment.
You took the whole 200, put it down?
No, just 20% down.
Got it.
Obviously.
Okay.
So that was what, $60,000?
Yep.
Give or take.
Yep.
Use that to buy the first one, and that's how the ball started for us. Obviously, a lot of sleepless nights thinking, oh my God, did we pick the right tenants? Every time that if they were one day late, the nerves. Oh my God, we're not going to pay, and oh my God, I better call them.
At that time, did you like put together like a slush fund? Did you put some money like in?
We still had
you had the line of credit.
We still had the line,
and what your thought was, I'll just use that if
worst case scenario.
Got it. Okay, I like
that. A bit of a cushion. Right?
Okay.
So knock on wood, the tenants were great. They paid, no issues. There wasn't a lot of service that needed to be done on the property, and I can't remember exactly how long after, but it was like I had the itch. And I was still a cop, working shift work, dealing with the property, so on and so forth. And then I approached my wife again, said, I think we should do another one. And that was a whole argument. She said, why don't you slow down? We have one. You said you only wanted one or two. Why are we rushing? And, anyways, fast forward, we bought the second one, but we took ourselves out to Hamilton.
Why?
Back to the mortgage broker, who wore two hats. He was a mortgage broker / he had his license.
Real estate license. Got it. Okay.
So he's like, and he was also an investor. So he said, hey, you bought the first one, and it was my decision because, your first rodeo, I have to live close to the property because I have to be able to drive by and make sure it's not on fire. That's the mindset of a novice investor.
Yeah. And where were you living at this point? The time when you were doing the investments, is it still in Newmarket where you're living? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were 5 minutes from the house.
Exactly.
And that was peace of mind that it was close.
For sure.
If there's a problem, we can go, blah, blah, blah. And so now he's like, okay, you did the Newmarket one. Let me take you to Hamilton because your money goes so much further and cash flow is so much better out in Hamilton as opposed to York Region, or if you're going to compare Hamilton to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know the first thing about Hamilton and all these one-way streets. It's like downtown Montreal, right? You can only go this way and whatnot. So I didn't know the first thing. Yeah. But again, my police background and, take the leap of faith, take chances, blah, blah, blah. Not scared to try. Okay, let's go on a road trip. So we go on a road trip and we check out some properties. We run some numbers. And it's like cash flow was crazy compared to York Region.
Right.
So we bought the second one using the line of credit in Hamilton, downtown Hamilton. And again, you might as well drop me in China. I didn't know where I was. But let's give it a shot. So I bought that second one and then worked at showing the unit. And now I'm driving from Newmarket to Hamilton just to meet tenants and tenant the property and post my ads on Kijiji, and that back then we didn't have the same kind of platforms we have now. Again, 11
it's still not that
ago.
far away, man. You're only talking a decade now, right?
We're about a decade.
Yeah. You still had the ability to do the social medias. I know it wasn't as for lack of a better word, as intense it is now. Everyone's on Instagram, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. But you still had the ability, I guess, to put some posting up. You mentioned Kijiji.
Yeah.
I actually even think 10 years ago, I was using viewit.ca. That was a big website right around that time. You mentioned cash flow and working numbers. Today, time of this recording, summer 2022, a little tougher to have your cash flow cover your expenses, even on the mortgage payment, property tax, and say, call it insurance, on top of the fact you're trying to maybe get your line of credit payment covered. But when you were doing it back then, and you were working your numbers, were you able to get them all? Was it all covered, even your payment on your line of credit, from what you remember?
Yeah, give or take. Back then, we were cash flowing in Hamilton.
Yeah.
On those turnkey properties, $1,300 a month.
Wow. And were these that first one in Hamilton? Was that a duplex or a triplex?
Triplex.
You went into a triplex. Okay.
Yeah, multifamily.
So, interesting, right? Because you also said what I always tell clients that I'm speaking with. I say, look, the second you do this once, it becomes the best drug on earth. You use the word, you said it, right? You got addicted. Yeah. It's so true. But because you said it, I want you to talk, what did you get addicted to? Was it the cash flow? Was it I have a feeling it wasn't with the dealing with the tenants, but maybe it does. People get off on that kind of stuff. They like that.
Yeah.
Or was it maybe because you saw passive appreciation? What was it that actually was the hit for you?
The cash flow and the passive appreciation.
Got it.
Because I saw, obviously the value of the home continuing to rise, and I saw the cash flow coming in. I obviously, with the police background, I was comfortable on the tenants I was picking, right? And doing my background checks per se. I was comfortable on that.
Can I just ask? I have to. If you're not comfortable answering, it's perfectly fine. When you're doing that, can you tap into a background check and check? You can tap in to see whatever. I can't do that shit because I was never a police officer. So you had more access to that stuff.
I have access to everything. Not that I used it.
That's awesome. I love that because as a landlord, I would love to get. I could ask for a police report, but Look, I
takes
got graphic
forever,
designers on my team. We could
Yeah.
make a lot of shit if we wanted to. They couldn't get away from you in that sense.
No.
And obviously you did to look at. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That just makes me happy.
Yeah.
I don't know why it just does because
It was definitely put my mind at ease for
sure.
sure. Right? So that before, if I could fast forward, we used that line of credit to buy, I think it was at least 3.
wow.
The first 3, we used that HELOC to buy those first 3. The first one in Newmarket, the next 2 in Hamilton. And we started to get very comfortable in that space. Again, still working full-time, shift work, running back and forth from Hamilton to shift to this to that, raising a family. My daughter at the time was obviously very young, starting out, but sacrifices, right, for the bigger goal.
For sure.
And then
At this time, are you seeing, like, what is your goal at that time? If you could kind of just go back again,
it
right?
got
Like,
addictive.
It
That
is-
first goal was I want 2 properties,
Okay.
some cash flow to subsidize my pension, right?
So you
That's it.
kind of calculated what the pension was going to be,
Yeah.
and you're like, let me just.
If I can bring in another 2-3 grand a month in cash flow,
This is going to be great.
I'll be okay.
Okay, and I'll use it for traveling or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And then now you get your third property. Does the goal start to change? I'm just curious, like, where your headspace would have been at that time. Like, are you saying to yourself yet at that time, maybe I can really start to build some, like, real generational wealth here? Is it one daughter now?
One daughter, yeah.
Like, I can really build out, like, a portfolio for her, something that, does that start clicking at that time, or is that even maybe at a later date?
Later date.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Definitely down the road. We started to build a bit of a reputation, and I started to be interviewed on several different podcasts, investing podcasts, and people started to reach out. Hey, I heard you on this podcast or that podcast. I love your story. You obviously know what you're doing. We were talking cash flow and numbers, this and that. And it led me to start to joint venture.
Okay. And are you going towards the joint venturing route at that time, or is this more recent now? Are we
No, joint venturing started about 8 years ago.
and did you go down that route mostly because you're like, look, I'm going to get tapped out at some point? I might as
did
well
get tapped
You got tapped out. Perfect. So did you try to even, just out of curiosity, refinance like even the first property, or was there not enough equity in there yet?
I didn't.
Got it. Okay.
Just because, so now we had 3 rentals plus our residential
Like your
primary
yep,
residence. So we
yep,
had 4
yep.
mortgages.
Okay.
Car leases, the whole 9 yards. So our debt ratio, we were at a max. We'd have to look at B lending
Yep.
or alternative lending. So at that point, after being aired on a few podcasts, I started to get calls, and I'd never joint ventured.
Yeah.
But people were like, hey, I'm definitely open to the idea.
Are you like, what the fuck is a joint venture? What
Yeah,
am
I didn't
I'm
know.
sure you're like, what the hell is this
And
shit?
it's
Yeah.
all I knew, okay, we're going to be partners. Okay. And then I did some research on structuring joint ventures, talked to some lawyers,
Yes.
so on and so forth. You have the money partner, you have the sweat equity partner. So obviously then I became the sweat equity and attracted different kind of entrepreneurs.
And so when you say sweat equity, I want to speak about that for a second, Adrian. There's also something else I want to talk about with joint venturing for sure. It's actually not with joint venturing. It's the fact that a lot of investors, let me go there first. It's a lot of investors will come to me and say, look, I don't need to create content. I don't need to get on people's podcasts. I don't need to do any of this. What I love with what happened with you, and it obviously happened very organically, but you're also very well spoken, is that people reached out to you because of the content. You weren't necessarily creating it yourself, but you were going on people's podcasts. Maybe they saw your face on videos. Like, just even that, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you would agree that you wouldn't probably have the opportunities that you have now if it weren't for you getting out and going on, which takes time. Like even today, man, coming in here, you know, and I'm sure you had no idea what the heck you're doing. Then you're coming to like a studio, and it's really a condo that I turned into a studio, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
And we have an audience.
Who's the crazy guy that's waving his hands and shit like that? Yeah. But you still do your thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you did your thing. I mean, just like I love the fact that a lot more opportunities came your way through your content creation. Now, speaking in terms of your sweat equity that you made, what was that? Like, what were you going to be doing? So I could be your money partner. I could be the one who's bringing the ability to get the financing. Mm-hmm. I might be bringing the down payment. You're the one who's bringing me the deal? Is that kind of what your process was?
I bring the deal.
Yes.
I run the numbers.
Got it.
We sit down, we look at the numbers. We looked at the numbers together when I first started at JV.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'd manage the project.
Got it.
I'd manage the tenants. I would manage everything to do if it needed minor renovations. I would manage that. You know, everything from A to Z. Essentially, you're hands-free, hassle-free.
Completely passive for me as the money guy. Right. All I got to do is come up with it.
Right.
Did it feel like you were starting that whole process all over again, i.e. like of being scared again because you never had to do it with a partner? Is it a different mindset?
Yeah, it was obviously reputation in this business is everything, right?
Sure.
So you want to maintain a sound reputation. You want to maintain a really solid overall product that you're delivering. So you don't want to tell somebody you're going to get this and this and this kind of return, and it's, you know, not even a fraction of that, because that's going to travel really quick.
Right.
Right. And then your business is going to go down the tubes, so to speak. So yeah, it was intimidating, and the pressure was there to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, because again, it's your name, your reputation, and so on. So that was kind of intimidating, but again, and I always resort back to police because, you know, there's so many things that were intimidating, and you know, there was a lot of times I was scared when I was a cop. You know, running into a scenario where you're going in where there's a gun call. Yeah, I'm scared.
Obviously.
You know, everybody would be scared. And if you say you're not scared, I'd say you're full of shit.
100%.
Right? So I think that whole mindset back from my training in police helped me overcome those kind of anxiety situations.
And how did you get over that stuff? Like just even your policing days? Like
believe in yourself.
Okay.
You got to believe in yourself, and you have to do your research, push hard, don't give up, never give up. Fail forward, you know, all those acronyms or
cliches
and things that it's so true. It's so true. If you believe you can't do it, you're never going to do it. And those mindset things, I got taught a lot of those things, you know, back in police college, because they're saying, you know, you may come across one day where you are about to lose your life or in the fight of your life as a cop. What are you going to do? Just put up your hand and say, okay, kill me? No, you're going to fight till you're dead. Right. You're going to win. And that mindset of fighting to win and fighting to succeed, I think helped me in my real estate business.
Well, I'm sure, like going to that first joint venture, right? Not knowing who you're getting in bed with, so to speak, and now you got to take the leap of faith, but there's a lot of fraud that happens out there. People can screw you very easily. When you were going, and because I know this just from experience with speaking with investors, how scared they are sometimes to do a joint venture. And I think their imagination gets to, you know, starts to run wild, that it is tougher than it really is. Like, did you find it was a little easier than you maybe made it up in your own mind, like going through the process with the lawyers and stuff? Like you can make it quite ironclad in that sense as well.
Yeah. Overall, it's what I expected it to be, and I guess I held myself at a very high level and accountable. You know what I mean? And I knew, you know what, I'm not going to fail. Even if I have to work 17 hours today, I'm not going to fail. And I'd go in for night shift, you know, work a 12-hour night shift, and then in the morning, don't even go home to bed, run out to Hamilton to go deal with something, you know, but it's what you set yourself to succeed and what you want. And I wanted it. And so that joint venture stuff really started to grow quite quickly, and word travels fast. and referrals, obviously, when you're doing a good job. So take that. That was probably what I say around 5-6 years into
got it.
real estate investing that the JV stuff started to really accelerate. And ultimately, fast forward to today, we own 75 properties now.
Wow.
And almost 380 doors.
So what are these 75 properties consist of? Like, I'm not asking for
all
the whole-
multifamily,
all multifamily.
tries,
So when
quads.
so did you then make the shift at some point? Like, say, okay, I'm not even going 5 doors and less. When you say multifamily, that's where I kind of go. I'm not sure if we're
Nothing less than 4.
nothing less than 4
And up to 47.
Wow. Okay.
Purpose-built apartment buildings. 6,
Congratulations,
12.
first and
Yeah,
foremost.
thank you.
Continue. Sorry. And what else does it consist of?
Like I said, everything from a 4-unit, 6, 8, 10, 12, up to, our biggest purchase last year was a 47-unit purpose-built apartment building, and everything in between.
Did you start to get out of Southern Ontario as well? Or
No,
like,
we're still, our bread and butter is still Hamilton.
Okay.
We can still make the numbers work, but ultimately, I should actually rewind a bit. Things were going really, really good, and that led me to retire early.
Okay.
So I completed 21 years as opposed to doing your typical 30 in full pension. I completed 21 years and then left early because of all that stuff happening in real estate and whatnot. And essentially my cash flow mimicked what I was making on the job.
Is that when you made the decision to retire?
Right.
You were just like, I want to go full-time into real estate and this is it?
And then financially, sitting down and mapping stuff out with my wife, financially, we're like, okay, this is what we're bringing in a month cash flow. We can live off of this while you continue to grow this business, and you don't need the police anymore. I was burning the candle at both ends.
Sure.
Like, I know I make it sound all roses, but
Yeah.
I was tired, working 18 hours a day, sort of speak. I was tired, so that led me to retire, and then I got my real estate license in 2017. It all, I guess, really blew up in 2017. I retired from police. And ironically, my badge number was 2017. So I think
That's really
I think
cool.
somebody had, because you can't pick your badge number.
Okay. That's
It's
just
not like you get hired and they say, what number do you want?
Sure.
It just goes in sequential order.
Sure.
So I got badge 2017, and I left the police department in 2017. Go figure.
Yeah.
And then I got my real estate license and really focused on, joint venturing at a very high level.
What made you get your real estate license? Sorry to cut you off there.
I just thought, you know what? I was tired of relying on agents and using agents.
For sure.
Hey, I got to work around your schedule. Are you available to show me this property or that property? At least this way now I can go see whatever I want, when I want, preview stuff for my JV partners. And I thought, you know what? There's also a monetary component there, right?
Yep. The
commission
2.5%
component,
that you get to save on that. You could
One deal I paid for your license and then some.
exactly.
And that was my mindset then.
Were you practicing at any time, like actually as a real estate agent, like with clients and stuff like that, or was it more just for your own portfolio?
It segued into a business where, yes, I also used the license to, even if someone didn't want a joint venture, but they heard me on a podcast or whatever and said, hey, I know what you're doing. Just can you find me a great triplex? Sure, no problem. And then obviously we're not going to turn away the income, right?
It's so funny, Adrian, because I'm doing like currently, I'm doing like the second immersion program I do for real estate agents and mortgage brokers. And one of the main components of this immersion program is to teach real estate agents as well as mortgage brokers to be investor savvy advisors. The main component, because been in the business for 17 years, my whole life, my whole business changed the day that I became and branded myself in my mind as well as through content as an investor savvy advisor. So this is what now, like, my cup is full. I always say this, my cup is full. It's overflowing now. Like, I'm kind of at a point where I get a little it's not a challenge, let me say, where, I got to tell people the difference between a 1-bedroom and a 1-bedroom plus den on an investment, right? Like, don't get me wrong, very grateful, touch, knock on wood, touch black, all that kind of stuff. Very, very blessed. But now I know that there's so much white space, so much opportunity for real estate agents and mortgage brokers. Hence why I want them to get on this. Hence why I want to immerse them into becoming an investor savvy advisor, because investors like yourself are multi-transactional. The addiction runs wild, right? And investors generally hang out with other investors or wannabe investors that the opportunity and the funnel that you can create of ongoing business is probably the best with real estate investors. And then the reason I love what you said and the fact that you became an agent, you knew it so much, and maybe not consciously, but maybe subconsciously you knew it, where hey man, I want to get access to the shit that these guys have access to. I might as well get it. I don't want to sit there and wait for Jazz to show me some properties. Right. But B, I'm going to have people asking me anyways about other properties. I can make some income there.
Yeah. Yeah. And before I was licensed, I'd be going out with agents looking at stuff. They just opened the door. I walked in, I decided, I ran my own numbers, I did everything. They wrote the offer and they got paid. So I thought, why am I not doing this myself?
Right.
So I get licensed in 2017. I leave the police department in 2017 and then start focusing on the business. And from there, we really started to hone in on, we got away from turnkey stuff.
Okay.
So now it was all BRRRR. Buy, renovate, refinance, rent.
Yep.
So it was BRRRR. And
are you doing the work yourself at this point, or at any point?
No, okay. Back then in 2017, when we started a BRRRR, we just used general contractors, right, to do the work. I would still pick the property, run the numbers, look at the exit. What's the return on investment when we're coming out of this acquisition? And then that exploded.
And just to go back to that, because I know there's somebody driving right now and say that they hear all these new terms and shit like that, right? Like BRRRR, for example. And I'm not saying it because you said it. It's all over fucking YouTube. It's the new term, right? At the end of the day, it's exactly what you said it is. You buy it, you essentially refinance the thing, make some renovate it, refinance it, and then do it again. You did it. You have the experience of dealing with the contractors. What's some stuff, if you can think back, and even maybe you're going through currently, that someone who's going to maybe do it for their first time, you wish you knew that back then?
The contractor game could make or break your BRRRR, right? You hear so many horror stories about tenants, per se. I've heard so many horror stories about contractors, and I've been burnt a couple times.
How?
Where, they say the contract's going to be $50,000, and 2 weeks into the contract, they want more money, and you got to advance them more money. They haven't shown up in 4 weeks, but they still, unless you give me more money, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to finish. I underestimated the job. I need $15,000 more. If you don't pay, I'm not going to finish. Take me to court. And, it not only does it hurt you financially, but look at the time delay, right? Now what they promised the job was going to be done in 3 months. It's 9 months and there's no end in sight. All that.
If you don't have the money to carry it, that's when you say time delay, and then you say financially, I hope, I really need people to understand what Adrian's trying to say and what I want to get across as well, that if you didn't put away money and budget for that, to your point about being make or break, it literally will screw up your pro forma, and probably more importantly, fuck with your mind, and you won't be sleeping.
Nights,
I'm sure you've had this.
I've been there, done it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now, where you're at with your portfolio, 75 doors, 75 buildings, a little over 300 doors right now, right? What's this portfolio look like in terms of dollars, if you don't mind me asking and you don't mind sharing? Off the top of your head.
I would say somewhere in the area of 70 to 80 million.
You know what I love about that, man? Because I know it's why I try to take people, I try my best. I go off on a lot of tangents. My guys know that, though. Yeah. is when you started, you probably never, and you told me, you didn't think about the 70, 80 million in terms of
Never in a million years.
Yet you fucking wake up, you do it every single day. You put in those reps, a little JV here, a little, refinance here, and it adds up really
Just
quickly.
Compounds.
Our friend Albert Einstein said that the best invention in the world was compound interest, and that's the reason why. I know you're talking about the values compounding, but the friggin' interest that you've been making on this has been phenomenal. The return on your investment that you've been making is like amazing, that it's so hard to see that in other types of investments. Did you ever think about other ones like the stocks and anything of that sort?
I don't know the stock market.
Are you into the crypto stuff now, or no? Okay.
No, I kind of have my eggs all in one basket.
Got it.
And the reason why, I always looked at real estate as something tangible, bricks and mortar, that it'll always be there. I can touch it, feel it, and the market may go up and may come down and may go up, but I'm a firm believer in generational wealth. And if you're in for the long haul with respect to real estate, you can't lose.
What does that mean to you? And just out of curiosity, like, what does that mean to you? Like, what does for me, it's 10 years. I like to look at real estate in a 10-year window. Where did I get this from? I kind of just made it up for myself. I also know that it's easy for me to see and understand that in where I do business, my place of business is the Greater Toronto area. And I know every decade, on average, values have doubled for the last 10 years, for the last 100 years, actually. So every decade for the last 100 years, values have doubled. For me, I'm like, I don't even really look at what's happening with values until it gets to that 10-year period, right? If I needed to do a refi before then, I might kind of get into that. For you, is it 20 years? Is it 30 years? Is it 8 years?
15, 20, 30.
And that's hard for some people, man. Like, I mean, especially with like where we're at now with social media and wanting that instant gratification and maybe seeing your friends. I mean, there's a massive sign here. Obviously, my listeners can't see it, but it says SKIDO, which is stop comparing yourself to others, right? And when you're looking on Instagram, you see a friend of yours that has a lifestyle that maybe you thought you should have had at this time, or you see somebody like Adrian right now that has a $75, $80 million real estate portfolio, and you get down on yourself because you thought that you were supposed to be there, like you were supposed to be there now in your life. But what I've come to realize is that you are exactly where you're supposed to be in your life right now, but you also have the opportunity to create whatever you want, starting at the point where you're at now. And so, look, I love the fact that you just probably, I have a feeling that there was a lot of naysayers in and around you, maybe even in the force, and and I don't even mean this in a joking way, like asking you to call anyone out or anything of that sort. But how did you deal with the naysayers? Like, how did you shut out that noise?
Just remain focused. Like nothing, no secret. It just like, jealousy is worse than cancer, they say, right? And it'll kill people, it'll kill relationships, it'll kill friendships. But I'm just very focused in what I wanted and what I wanted to achieve. And, there's been relationships lost along the way. But ultimately, if you have a goal in mind and you're going there, let the bullshit ride itself out and just remain focused for me. So it really hasn't stopped me.
And so right now, where's the focus? What's the goal now? What's next for you?
So we actually have done quite well over the last several years. Because we honed in on the BRRRR strategy at a high level, we started our own construction company because I got tired of getting burnt.
Okay.
So we started our own in-house construction company that facilitates all of our construction. So it's peace of mind not only for me, but also our investors to say, hey, we're not going on Kijiji anymore, hiring buddy that's going to show up once or twice and then take our money and run. And we also have our own property management company that manages all of our doors as well. Again, peace of mind that our properties are being looked after by our people. So essentially what I was thinking as this business continued to grow is Costco. I want everything under one roof.
Yeah.
Realtor, underwriting, numbers guy, construction, property management, all under one roof, where you come in my front door and you have everything under that one roof. So that's gone well. Where do I see it? I think that ultimately I'm getting close to passing the torch to my daughter, who has come on board. She recently graduated from university, and now she's actually working with us now for the last year and a half or so. And I'll still be here in the background looking after things, but
is that daughter?
Yeah.
So shout out to Vanessa. She's just
my daughter Vanessa, who's in the audience here watching us.
Well, congratulations on being part of the business and part of obviously the family, but now in the business, and that's really cool.
So ultimately, you know what you want for your kid. If I have let's say I tap out at 400 doors, my goal or what I'd love to see is take what we've done, and with her, she's so much like her dad with her work ethic and tenacity. Take what I've done and double it.
Right.
And it's all yours, so to speak. Make 800 doors.
Yeah. And well, and I'm sure throughout the years, and I mean, Vanessa's here, so I mean, I'm not sure if my people can hear her or not, but even just with a head nod, I'm sure you were learning a lot, things, Vanessa, that you probably weren't in school.
Oh my gosh, I think I've learned so much more in the last year and a half working with him than I ever did in school. Not bashing that journey, but this has been completely different in the best way.
I love, and again, I mean, viewers can't even see it. The smile on this girl's face, you know what I mean? Like, I've been told I have a nice smile, but she just trumps it, right? Because you can feel it. You can feel the energy, which is important, right? Like I think what you were able to, the road and the path that you were able to take her down was not one that a formal school setting would have been able to actually teach her, right? Which is just, I think, one thing that is so neat with real estate investing is for the 8 things that come with it, is the fact that it could be passed on, and it's not just kids, it's not nephews and nieces. It's like you could do anything with it. Like you could give it away to charity. Like look at what Warren Buffett's doing. He has kids. He ain't giving it to his kids, right? Like, I mean, he's just passing it along, right? And so I think that is so neat. You mentioned property management. You mentioned the construction company. Are these now being outsourced to other people as well, or is this just for your empire?
Just for us.
Got
really
it. So just
catering
keeping it
to
in-house.
Our in-house joint ventures. So we could give it more of a boutique, personal feel to it.
Yeah, I like that.
So really, you know what? Getting back to where do I see myself? I think what I created with this empire, so to speak. I wanted life by design. I wanted to do what I want, when I want, how I want. As much as I loved being a police officer and it was an amazing career and it taught me so much, I wanted more where no one's going to tell me I have to be here. My shift starts at 6 a.m. and it's a snowstorm and I'm driving through a snowstorm to get to, that roll call at 6 a.m. or I'm going to get reprimanded, or I got to work a night shift tonight and I got to miss Christmas with my daughter and my wife. I wanted that time freedom. More than financial freedom is awesome, but that time freedom and that freedom that real estate investing gave me, that's what it's all about, right?
When you were saying what you were just saying, Adrian, I looked over to my team and we talk about it a lot. Like, we're trying to design our businesses around our life and not the other way around.
Right.
Right. And I know that there's just so many people who hear what you said, what I just said, and they have such a tough time with it because they don't think it's for them, you know, but it's why I bring on, like I've had some massive names on the podcast, and I've had people who are just starting out in their journey with their first business or buying their first property. And then there's everyone in between, you know, and where you fit is all somewhere along that spectrum, right? But what's cool, and what I'll talk to my team about on a regular basis on who we want on this couch, is people that are just going through the process, and ones that necessarily, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that people that are willing to share their journey, and the fact that we actually get to see and be part of it as much as we possibly can, right? And so A, I want to thank you for that. B, I want to ask you, how does like an investor even get in touch with you, and what's the process like? So don't feel rushed to go through that, because I really want to know, like, so if someone's watching, someone's listening, A, how do they find you? But then B, what is the next steps? Do you, like, how do they get part of an investment with you? Is that even possible still? Like, just walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me is through social media.
Okay.
Obviously, we're all over Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
What's the name on your favorite
Either my
one?
name, my first and last name, or our company's Executive Properties Capital.
Okay.
If you put that in the Instagram or Facebook, or just my name, Adrian Pannozzo, you'll all over social media.
Good job.
Or send me an email.
Okay.
Adrian, ADRIAN, at investwithepc.com. Shoot me an email, have a coffee and whatnot. What's the process? Obviously, we have the money partner, like we discussed, but we're sort of not sort of, but we're pretty picky who we work with. We have to have the same goals, obviously, and the same vision with respect to that. We're looking for people that want to leave their money in real estate for a minimum of 5 years. Not to mention the fact that whether it's 5 or 6, it's still great, because most of our BRRRRs are producing infinite return.
Okay.
We're getting all of our capital out.
Yep.
On the back end after we refi. So when you're creating infinite return, it's rinse and repeat.
It'd be silly to sell the property.
We're cash flowing. You got no capital left in on the deal. You've refinanced it. You got great tenants. You got debt pay down, passive appreciation, cash flow. You don't need to sell it. But anyways, we ask for a minimum of 5 years, and ultimately you'd have to qualify for financing.
Okay. So essentially, you're looking for people who have the ability to get the financing. I won't quote you on anything. Just give me some approximate numbers, because I'm curious as an investor first and foremost, before even being a real estate broker or a podcast host. I'm gonna, like, is there a minimum investment I got to put in? Would you say?
I would say, our smallest investment would be, let's say, like a fourplex.
Okay.
A multifamily. Again, BRRRR.
Yep.
We're buying distressed.
Yep.
I would say a minimum of 300,000.
Okay, and is that like, am I the only investor into that deal, or is
Correct.
it? Okay, so 300,000. I got to leave my money in there for 5 years. What kind of return am I gonna see? I'm gonna get my 300,000 probably back in 5 years. No, so how does that all gonna work?
So
out?
our projects last 6 to 8 months.
Okay,
So we're gonna renovate this.
got it.
8 months later, we're gonna refinance it.
Okay.
You're gonna have your money back in 8 months.
Okay, so I get my money back in 8 months, and then I'm in the deal with you until perpetuity.
We ask for a minimum 5.
5 years.
Most of our JVs hold them forever because they've gotten their capital out.
Perfect.
They're cash flowing.
Yeah.
They have debt pay down.
And are we 50-50 on that deal now moving forward?
Yeah.
Okay. So I need to come up with the 300 and the ability to finance. Okay, great. I mean, you guys have made it obviously quite easy
Pretty
in that
seamless,
sense.
yeah.
Pretty seamless. It's a matter of finding the properties and stuff. I mean, to your point earlier, Adrian, I mean, not all this is rosy posy. Shit happens. We need to find the property, which is tough. Is there, how readily available are you finding properties? Like if one of my guys or gals or myself call you kind of today and say, okay, I'm good to go. You do your background
I'd say
checks.
within-
You check the computer.
Yeah, we check the computer.
You do the background check. You find that we have the same goals and everything.
Yeah,
we're good to move
we're a good
forward.
fit.
We're a good fit. Possibly a property's going to come out in 6 months, 3 months.
I'd say anywhere between 2 weeks to 2 months.
Wow. Okay. So you guys are actively kind of
We're
out there
looking,
doing your thing.
yeah.
And Hamilton, you're like, that's
It's
number
our
one
bread
focus?
and butter.
Got it. I like it, by the way. Like I personally, I love Hamilton. I mean, me as an organization, we weren't really taking investors out there. I'm going to say, you know, really for the first 15 years, to be honest with you, we're so like Toronto proper 416.
Right.
Then we're kind of GTA. And now I call it the GTHA, right? Like it is what it is, right? And so I love the fact that you'll probably even know better than I do, but I think I'm pretty close. I think it's like 4.1 billion with a B being put in by all 3 levels of government into the infrastructure of Hamilton. Something crazy like that. And if you could, when you can find a place that all 3 level of government are seeing this to be the place to put money into, it's generally a good idea to follow that kind of money, because you're going to get the transit, you're going to get the population growth, you're going to get the employment growth as well. And with all that, as investors comes the best thing, more customers, which are your tenants. And so I really like how you guys kind of laid it out. I'm very excited to hear from you in the next couple of years, because I know you're just going to topple that 100 million number very, very soon. But was there anything that you wanted to leave my guys and gals with, like things that you've seen and we're like,
Someone once told me, if you give one piece of advice, someone once told me, don't be afraid to fail. Be excited to fail. And if you have that fighting mindset and you're excited to fail, you can almost accomplish anything. And I'm living proof. I mean, 10 years ago, I was driving a police cruiser on night shift trying to stay awake, in the back of a building, drinking a Tim Hortons. And, fast forward 10 years later, here we are.
You could buy a Tim Hortons.
And I can live and I have that freedom to live and do what I want. So if I can do it, and I come from no business background, no financial background as far as this is how you make money. I came from nothing. And here we are. So
thank you once again, Adrian. Vanessa, thank you to you, because I have a feeling you have a big part of where he's at right now and the organization is at. To the both of you, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.